rest of you, do you have what it takes to be the meanest, the cruelest, the most savage, unforgiving motherfuckers in God's cruel kingdom?
Yes, Staff Sergeant!
Be able to one day say, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil because I am the baddest motherfucker in the goddamn valley.
Yes, Staff Sergeant!
We shall fucking see.
Hi, Massive D here. In this video we will talk about the silliest technique in the game that has no right to be viable, yet it is, and not because the method to deal with it is not obvious, but the fact that the actual effect and/or effectiveness of the technique is not obvious. I will show you how it works in a controlled environment using two Pythons, both equipped with level 6 grade E thrusters. On stronger thrusters the effect is more pronounced, but let's start with basics. So in this scenario, Commander Kurama will be using the technique, and I will be obliviously playing into his hand. We won't be using weapons, for reasons of having a controlled environment, but I will be explaining each scenario and real combat consequences. So here I give Kurama a head start, as he boosts away using 4 pips to engines. Once he reaches his peak speed, he turns flight control off and flips his ship around, ending up flying backwards. Now, in Elite Dangerous, his ship will eventually slow down to developer-designated cruising speed after calculating his weight, equipment, yada yada yada. However, in real life, an object accelerated through a vacuum without the influence of outside forces, for example gravity, will continue its trajectory at the same speed until the end of time, without ever slowing down unless it collides with or passes through something. Once Kurama performs the maneuver, he switches from 4 pips to engines to 4 pips to shields and 2 pips to weapons, and in real combat scenario would start firing his weapons in anger at me with the intent to kill. Now, I boost after him using energy I have in my engine's capacitor, but as you can see, I don't even begin to catch up with him, and once my boosters run out, Kurama keeps increasing his distance, and immediately I find myself in a pretty diabolical situation. My pips are 4 to shields and 2 to weapons, because I am theoretically fighting Kurama and I want to do damage, yet I don't want to take damage, but unfortunately for me, it's getting harder for me to hit him, especially if I'm using rate of fire pulse lasers which have a jitter. I need to get closer. But if I switch my pips to engines, I either lose shield power or weapon power. And even after I boost again, the distance is still not satisfying. Even if I set 4 pips to engines and keep it that way, it's still not enough. And meanwhile, while I'm sweating here, Kurama is sitting there with mouse in one hand, a cup of joe in the other, shooting me with his full military might. This is especially dangerous when you are fighting an evenly matched ship. For example, completely maxed out Furtherlands versus a completely maxed Furtherlands. By putting you in a position where you are forced to lose energy, DPS and shield power in order to keep up, the opponent gains advantage by keeping pips at the exact same setup. They are pretty much employing school level math to come back and punch you in the crotch. Oddly enough, it's quite psychological as well. Humans are animals after all, and animals have primal instincts, for example, chasing a running prey, which by doing so appears weaker to you. So this technique is actually quite diabolical, because it forces you to play into it without giving it a second thought. So, now that we understand the mechanics of this nonsense, let us see how to counter it effectively and every time. Now, there are 2 methods which are influenced by what type of ship you and your opponent are flying in. First scenario, by default, you are evenly matched both by speed and firepower, or you have a slight advantage. Second scenario is where your ship is slower. For example, enemy is in a Furtherlands and you are in a corvette, right? Let's begin with scenario 1. So Kurama boosts away and initiates flight assist off. I see his shenanigans and counter him by boosting with 4 pips to engines and initiating flight assist off, surprise surprise, completely negating what he's trying to achieve, as we are both now locked at the same speed. I did give him a 5-second start for educational purposes, but in real combat you boost right away after they boost, and you are locked at pretty much point blank distance. Once cruising, you switch your pips to 4 shields and 2 weapons, and leave them at that until your opponent realizes you are onto his tricks and tries to boost again in a different direction and repeats the process, which you then counter again by repeating the same process yourself. Now, the second method, if your ship is slower, or the opponent went out of his way to double down on this ridiculous quote-unquote technique and employed, for example, ranged increased weapons or fixed multi-cannons, which work well this way since chasing target is always in the straight, easy-to-hit line, or even something like spamming chaff and attacking with heat hounds. God, it hurts my brain to even think about how dumb all of the above is. It is very important to recognize this threat immediately though, otherwise you will fall victim to it. But basically, this is my absolute favorite method to dealing with it. So, Kurama boosts away, and I simply turn away, move backward slightly. And turn back around to face him. As I see him gracefully sailing into the sunset, I'm wondering if he's any threat to me at all. Your opponent is now forced to come back. Once he does that, you simply boost towards him attacking. He will perhaps try to boost backwards again, but in this way you will just win the damage exchange. And what? You fucking what, mate? If you've been ganked, and your opponent is doing this, it will take him a minute or so to start feeling really stupid. And if you're attacking a ganker and this is his method of combat, you are quite literally wasting his time, because he's now forced to do this stupid shit instead of actually killing other players. So you're doing the community a favor anyway. No matter what the scenario, you do this and a few minutes later the fight will pretty much turn into this.
Sup, bro? What, bro? Sup, bro? Take a swing, bro. Right here, bro.
And if you're not a ganking scumbag, it will spell sweet victory in your book.
Alright.